to run for the Kentucky House?
My name is Charlotte Goddard, and I'm a candidate for House District 2 in western Kentucky, specifically Graves County and McCracken County, which is around the Paducah area in Kentucky. I have not had political ambitions. I am actually a very busy teacher. I'm a mother of 2 children. I'm a wife, and my husband owns a small business. So political ambitions were not something that I had in mind. So I decided to run. I started kind of getting more active in local politics based on a lot of the legislation that was coming out. Starting around 2015, we elected Governor Bevin as a governor of Kentucky, and he brought with him the Coke agenda into Kentucky and really started affecting a lot of changes in Kentucky that were really hitting working Kentuckians very hard, my family included. And so there was kind of a progression of they started attacking the rights of union members, including making Kentucky a right-to-work state, repealing the prevailing wage, and it's just been a constant stream of legislation that has really been harmful to working-class citizens in our state. And then around 2017, our schools really have been hammered since the recession in Kentucky. We have lost a lot of funding over time. Back in the 1990s, there was a Kentucky Education Reform Act where they were trying to make sure that all of Kentucky schools had equity in funding. And so there was a large reform process in that. And part of that was their funding model, and they changed to a SEEK formula and those sorts of things. And over time, and specifically since 2008, during the recession, there's been just a really drastic cuts to funding to public education, and it's been really, really harmful and really difficult for teachers and administrators in many, many ways. We've lost a lot of services. It's affected everything from early learning, early childhood, all the way up through university level. So in 2017, they started passing legislation for things such as charter schools. They were going to take additional funding dollars from taxpayers and take them out of our local public schools and put them into charter schools and private schools. There was also a tax on pensions. Again, this is all kind of aligned with the Coke agenda, the ALEC agenda, and really privatizing public education and trying to privatize pensions. And so, teachers were standing to lose a lot of benefits that were part of what they call an inviolable contract, which we have found out that, even with the name inviolable and it being a contract, apparently they can just rewrite the law and violate the contract. And so that really got a lot of Kentucky educators on alert. So, we're seeing the defunding of public education and then, taking away some of the pension benefits that we had been promised, when we signed our contracts. So around 2017, the governor he was going to call a special session to pass his pension reform bill. So my legislator was asked to speak at a town hall meeting with KEA in the Paducah area, which is just a little north of where we live. And he did not show up. Our senator did not show up. So basically, we didn't have representatives who were voting for us, who were showing up and explaining why they would or would not vote for these bills. And so it was upsetting. This is our livelihood. We're looking at really, it's like a deferred benefit. We don't get paid a lot of money for the kind of hours that we put in, and And they're threatening to take away some of the benefits that we were promised when we were hired on as teachers. And they were not willing to take accountability for that and to speak up. And so in November, just about a week or maybe two after the KEA town hall from Paducah, I was calling my legislators and emailing and just trying to get them to contact me because I felt like we needed to hear from them. They were non-committal during an interview for one of the local radio stations as to whether they would vote for the legislation or not, and I felt like we needed to hear from them. And so I asked them to come to I asked specifically my representative to come to a town hall meeting in our district and to speak to us about his decision and what he felt like, how he would vote on that decision. And he did agree to attend. This was just days away from a possible special session. And so I had about 4 days to put together a town hall. So I started contacting people by email, phone calls. I started contacting media, just trying to get awareness out and to allow our district to hear from our legislators. And so that kind of was the kickoff, the straw that broke the camel's back. That I had not decided at that point to run, but after listening to my legislator really lied to my face. He told us that the pension bill was dead on arrival. He told us that the bill was basically, it was dead, that it wasn't going anywhere. And a few months later, then down the road, it came back to life. So he told us that the bill was dead, and a month later, in December, our Speaker of the House in Kentucky, he resigned for sexual indiscretions. He was sending pictures to some female staff, and she blew the whistle, and he resigned. And my legislator stepped in and defended him. He called for him to be reinstated. In fact, he was going through laws trying to figure out if he could maintain his position as Speaker of the House or not. And I had emailed my legislator and had told him that as a survivor of sexual violence, sexual abuse, it was very insulting to me that he would take on this role as, instead of, encouraging him to withdraw as Speaker of the House, instead he was encouraging him to stay on as Speaker of the House and, in fact, making calls for him in his defense. And he sent an email back to me stating that basically it was none of my business, that I didn't know all of the details, and that he was not concerned with my opinion. And so, I just felt like in the best interest of our district, I didn't feel like he was well suited for the job. He has not been paying attention to the people of District 2 and our needs as working people. And, as a woman, I really started to feel like we were not being valued, that we were not being listened to. Teachers we're predominantly a female industry. It's predominantly female. So females are looking at losing a lot of security with our pensions. Again, the public education funding, then we spend a lot more time looking for resources and paying for resources and creating resources. And it's not uncommon to work 75 hours a week as a teacher, while losing a lot of sleep and time with our families. And I just don't feel like that was being valued by our legislators and also by our governor.
There seems to have been this strange shift in power in Kentucky. So up until 2016, the Democrats actually had control of the state house, which I think would be surprising to a lot of people who think of Kentucky as a very Republican state now. But then in 2016, there was a massive shift toward the Republicans, and they got control of the House. And it sounds like that's when some of what you're describing was starting with the Koch agenda and some of these things that were really getting worse for teachers and families.
Yes.
So what are you hearing from people as you are going around the district and talking to people? What kind of reception is your campaign getting? What are the people saying about the issues they care about, and how they're likely to vote in the fall?
Well, I don't know how much you have followed the teacher rebellions that are going on from state to state. Mm-hmm. But after, of course, Kentucky has had its issues for a little while with in terms of legislation and those sorts of things for a little while. And as all these states have, I mean, these rebellions didn't just happen overnight, or one state, West Virginia, decided to do this. So today Kentucky's going to do this. We all kind of have a variety of issues that are going on. And like I said, there are multiple issues going on with education in our state. And so with the teacher rebellion starting in West Virginia, it really helped to fan the flames of the emotions that have been brewing in Kentucky for a while related to the underfunding of education and the pension reform issues that were going on. And we had created what is called Kentucky 120 Strong, with 42,000 members of state employees as well as teachers, educators. And so, there is a lot of resistance. There is a lot of anger. People are feeling very betrayed right now. We're feeling undervalued, underappreciated. The governor has continuously hurled insults directed at teachers. He has called us everything from thugs to ignorant, to accusing us of, during rallies and protests, saying that our students were being sexually molested because we were in Frankfort instead of in our school districts, advocating for ourselves. And so there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of anger among our union brothers and sisters. My husband was a United Steelworker for several years. In fact, that's how we came to live in District 2. We were a young couple when we got married and really didn't have the stability to make a home somewhere. And he got a job at General Tire as a union employee. He had good benefits. He had good wages, and that allowed us to buy a home and to buy cars and those sorts of things. And when you start attacking manufacturing and unionized jobs and trying to give the corporations the advantage of, being able to set wages, and it takes the power away from the unions, you kind of get some dissent there. Unions have been so key and they have been such a major influence in increasing the quality of workers and workers' rights, of our benefits, things all the way back to, 40-hour work weeks, weekends, ending child labor, the protections that we have, workers' compensation. So many of those things came out of union jobs. And so when they started attacking union jobs or unionization and education, it just really has affected so many people across the district. People are upset. They've also, started dismantling or tried to dismantle, it's actually in court right now, the Medicaid expansion that Governor Beshear put in place. And that is going to affect altogether in my district somewhere around 11,000 people. So it's a large number of people in my district who could potentially lose Medicaid benefits.
If our listeners would like to help out your campaign, how can they do that?